Hey there, what's up gang? Kawaii50 here with another fake Grand Order video reminding you that you better Van Gogh and do this Halloween event. Okay, I'll shut up now. Anyways, this video is about Van Gogh. We're going to be going over the best allies, craft essences, and command codes to ensure that this servant is a valuable member of your team. And let me just be upfront with you, Van Gogh is not a servant for the faint of heart. And I'm not just talking about the design, which I'm not going to use the final design, even though it's super cool for this like main video part, but Van Gogh is just a servant with a kit that is so nutty that it actually works. Anyways, I hope this video helps you out. If it does, be sure to go ahead, like, and subscribe. So immediately we see something good in the fact that Van Gogh is a foreigner. Not a lot of those, and it's honestly a very good class, so Van Gogh's already picking up some points off of that. There are 3 quick, 1 arts, and 1 buster card in this deck, as well as an AoE arts support Noble Phantasm. That's right, Van Gogh's gonna be some weird pseudo-supporter, but some weird pseudo-supporter that can actually put out some pretty freaking good damage. We'll get to how that happens in just a sec. Van Gogh's max HP of 15k is the 19th highest in the game on JP right now, so we're hitting that sweet top 20. Van Gogh's going to be taking neutral damage from the vast majority of sources, so we're already kicking off pretty good. The max attack Van Gogh has sits at 11,220. Again, this is going to usually be dealing neutral damage to the vast majority of enemies, but Berserkers are going to absolutely fold when faced against Van Gogh's onslaught. NP per hit is solid at a 0.76%. Also, with some ways to sort of cheat yourself into some extra NP, you're going to see Van Gogh able to charge that Noble Phantasm pretty frequently. Star Absorption is sitting at above average at 147, so you can expect quite a few stars to flow to Van Gogh's cards, which is actually going to be very helpful for what we're going to try to do. Van Gogh's first skill is also the skill you're going to want to focus on leveling up first. Imaginary Number Art rank B+ is the skill that sets Van Gogh apart from so many other servants. To start off with, Van Gogh gets Guts, already pretty solid there. Van Gogh also gives herself 3 stacks of Curse. Weird, right? Pretty weird demerit, but on top of that, this also grants a 5 to 10% increase in NP gauge for every single curse stack. So theoretically, we can get an instant Noble Phantasm charge if Van Gogh is sitting at 10 stacks of curse. We can actually end up making this happen with a little bit of fancy maneuvering. You might be worried about Van Gogh dying from the curse, but it's okay. Van Gogh actually has a passive where she cannot die from curse effects, so you are actually going to be set to go. If it wasn't for that passive, Van Gogh might not nearly be as celebrated as she is. Definitely go ahead and max this first so you can change that 5% to a 10% and get some sick Noble Phantasm gains. Van Gogh's second skill is the Yellow House rank A+. This decreases all enemies' defense for 3 turns and also decreases their quick card resistance by 20% for 3 turns. This immediately leads everyone into realizing that Van Gogh is a face card damage servant. We want to utilize those quick cards as quickly as possible in order to make sure that Van Gogh is able to generate a bunch of stars and get some sick damage off of a bunch of crits. This skill doesn't just stop there though, it gives all allies an evade and starts restoring all of their HP. However, it also hits every single ally with a very minor curse. Now, you've seen Van Gogh dishing out a bunch of curses with all of her skills, but don't worry, we're going to be able to rectify that with that third skill. Just hang tight. Still go ahead and max this skill last, because the only thing really affected by leveling it up is cooldown as well as that defense reduction. Not nearly as important as those 2 other skills, still, you're going to want a 10-10-10 Van Gogh at some point. And Van Gogh's final skill is Beacon Soul rank EX. This gives an ally a 20 to 30% attack boost and increases their critical star gather rate. You're probably going to be chucking this on Van Gogh. This also applies an effect to Van Gogh. Remove 1 curse stack when using quick cards to attack, again leaning more into that face card servant. And it also applies a sick effect. If Van Gogh removes a curse, that increases Van Gogh's attack by 10% for 3 turns. This effect stacks and stacks and stacks, allowing you to push Van Gogh even further beyond. This also absorbs all curse status effects on the field. They all go straight to Van Gogh. So you've got options to charge Noble Phantasm off of those curse stacks, as well as increase that damage by cleansing those curse stacks while this skill is active. This also removes curse status effects not only from yourself, but from your allies, and most importantly, from your enemies. So we're going to go ahead and chuck some more curses on them whenever possible. Again, max this skill second. Honestly, if you could, max the first skill and this skill in tandem. You really want those skills to function. They are the core of Van Gogh's kit. For Van Gogh's append skills, we are actually going to go with 2 selections. To start with, extra attack boost. With Van Gogh being a face card focused servant, we want to make sure we get the benefit of all of those face cards. And since the increase to Brave Chains and same type card chains is not in the game yet, that buff just dropped on JP very recently, we've got a while to focus on it. We need to squeeze some damage, squeeze some extra critical stars, squeeze some extra NP gain out of everything we can. An extra attack boost is going to help us do that. Of course, load magical energy always makes the cut. 10 to 20% NP starting gauge is great on every character in the game. And now we get to Van Gogh's Noble Phantasm, De Stera Noct to rank EX. This inflicts terror on all enemies for 3 turns, which means for those 3 turns, your enemy has a chance to get absolutely stunned, so you can get some sick lockdowns in boss fights off of this skill. All allies are going to get their critical strength buffed by 50 to 100%. This is going to especially help Van Gogh's neutral damage. Van Gogh is going to get most of her damage off of those crits. This also further increases the critical strength of all entity of the Outer Realm allies by another 100%, which is absolutely monstrous, absolutely insane. There are a lot of super cool entity of the Outer World servants, and wouldn't you know it, who is an entity of the Outer World? Who has their existence outside of the domain? That's going to be Van Gogh, so Van Gogh is going to benefit off of that skill. Also, 10 critical stars per turn for 3 turns. That is basically, here, have a fragment of 20-30 max limit broken. I've even mentioned the overcharge effect again, which increases the attack of all allies by 30 to 50% for 3 turns. Again, this stacks with Van Gogh's 3rd skill that grants attack bonuses off of Cleansing Curse. Van Gogh's Noble Phantasm is incredibly stacked, and you're going to see a noticeable change the second this is cast, much like a servant who's often compared to Van Gogh, Super Orion. So who should we pair Van Gogh with? Well, of course, let's start with our standard supporters. Gogh Scotty is going to be the main supporter that you want, because you're getting most of your damage off of those quick face cards, so we need to push that as far as we possibly can. However, beyond Gogh Scotty, there are a couple of other servants I can mention pairing with Van Gogh. Most of these servants get some sort of benefit off of existence outside of the domain, grant Van Gogh some massive benefit by being included, or just give us some good old-fashioned instances of curse. Let's go over them now. Of course, my freebie recommendation is Delicious Salami. Salami is going to give us some great things off of her Noble Phantasm, mainly being that curse on a single enemy and a curse damage up bonus. So you can go ahead and look at your enemy and be like, I'm sorry, but Van Gogh has the meats right now. And Salami is just going to pop in there, hit with that curse damage, and then any extra curse you get off of Van Gogh is going to deal a little bit of extra damage. God, now I'm just hungry. Now, one of the most popular servants to pair with Van Gogh is also Yang Guifei. Now, why do we pair Yang Guifei with Van Gogh? Well, your Van Gogh might not necessarily die from curse, but oh no, the enemy has suddenly decided, let's just go ahead and straight up murder that servant with 1 HP. That would be very, very unfortunate for Van Gogh, especially if you're about to pop off with that damage. Yang Guifei can end up mitigating that by drawing the enemy's attention towards her, especially after her first skill gets a buff, being able to taunt all enemies instead of just male enemies. On top of that, Yang is a foreigner, so you are going to be getting that extra foreigner damage bonus. Odds are you're fighting a berserker. 2 foreigners are going to be very, very good at murdering that berserker in particular. And on top of that, she has existence outside the domain, so she's going to get benefits from Van Gogh's unique buffs. Another foreigner we can definitely pair with Van Gogh is Jacques de Molay. Jacques de Molay has a couple of benefits that help Van Gogh. To start with, of course, foreigner class. So odds are you brought a foreigner to fight someone, Jacques is going to help Van Gogh out getting that extra damage. Jacques also has the ability to apply Curse to her attack, so you can go ahead and continue stacking Curse even if you are not particularly drawing those Van Gogh cards we're going to set up to give your enemy Curse. And on top of that, that Noble Phantasm gives out Curse as well and is a quick Noble Phantasm. So you can chuck that Noble Phantasm chain in with Van Gogh's face cards, get yourself a nice tasty 10 critical stars off of that overall bonus. And finally, I definitely want to recommend the final servant I am rolling for this year, Ashia Domin. Ashia Domin is absolutely incredible for any and all chaotic evil characters you have on your team. Van Gogh is a chaotic evil character, so she will be able to fully benefit from all of Ashia Domin's buffs he is able to apply, further increasing her critical strength by magnitudes, overall increasing her damage and attack. Also, Domin also has the ability to curse all enemies. Wouldn't you look at that? More delicious curse buffs to gobble up from yet another character. Honestly, if I saw a team of Van Gogh, Jacques de Molay, and Ashia Domin fielded, that's a pretty big brain team in my opinion, and I'm going to be utterly horrified if I was on the receiving end of that power combo. Fortunately, I am not. So craft essences, craft essences, craft essences. We need Van Gogh to be able to get those sweet critical stars in order to deal that critical damage. That's the main way Van Gogh is going to pump up those rookie numbers. Honestly, one of Van Gogh's best craft essences in the game is her Bond craft essence, Self-Portrait at Chaldea. This is strictly a better fragment of 2030. This grants 8 critical stars per turn and also increases all allies' critical damage by 15% while Van Gogh is on the field. This, of course, includes Van Gogh. If you don't have this, which you won't the second you pull her, pretty much any stars per turn craft essence can be a suitable substitute. Fragment of 2030, of course, being the main focus. I can also recommend a craft essence called King of Heaven. This not only grants critical stars per turn, but it also increases Noble Phantasm overcharge level by 2 once. Since Van Gogh's attack boost is tied to Noble Phantasm overcharge, you can squeeze a little bit of extra attack out of that with this craft essence equipped. And finally, we have command codes. If you've been holding on to any command codes that give you the ability to curse an opponent, now is the time to spend them all. Let's go ahead and look at some of those. Demonic Beasts of the Forest curses an enemy for 3 turns, 500 damage per turn. Boom, great, we're already hitting with that 3-star. We've got Beguiling Amulet, which hasn't hit NA yet, but you're going to want to look out for. This is 300 curse damage for 3 turns, and also grants 1 critical star whenever you attack with the engraved card. It ain't much, but any little bit helps. Knight of the Abyssal Sanctuary is also an upcoming code to look out for. This inflicts 500 damage per turn curse on an opponent, and it also gains 3 critical stars. I don't know why Jacques is focused on this command code. We want to throw this straight to Van Gogh. The command code that is absolutely mandatory on Van Gogh, though, is Paintbrush of the Train. It's Van Gogh's paintbrush. It was basically made for this servant. When attacking with that engraved card, you get 2 critical stars, you recover your HP by 300, and apply a curse demerit buff to Van Gogh in particular. That 300 HP you recover, by the way, those are those 3 curse debuffs that Van Gogh gives herself when using her first skill. So you immediately get rid of that demerit essentially when you attack with this card, at least for a little while. This is a must equip. Barring that, any sort of command code you have that ends up granting critical stars is going to be an excellent pick to throw on Van Gogh, regardless of which card you put it on. Overall, gang, Van Gogh is an incredibly interesting servant, and I really think they actually did a really good job with her kit, and if you're looking forward to rolling for her, you should get ready to go all in and have yourself a pretty fun team to play around with. The way Van Gogh utilizes curse stacking, I know that a lot of newer players might not be super into learning that system. You really got to figure out when you're going to go ahead and juggle your curses, when you're going to go ahead and pitch in and try to dispel those curses in order to sort of pump up that attack damage off of dispelling those. And maybe you might want to even consider having characters, which I should have mentioned these earlier, but I'll mention them in passing now, which lock any sort of cards so you can get a maximum return off of Van Gogh's quick cards. Maybe a Summer BB or an Artoria Bunny would be very helpful on a Van Gogh team. Overall, Van Gogh is a servant that is just strong, just straight up strong, and brings a fresh new way to play FGO to the table. Is this necessarily going to be as strong as immediately nuking an enemy with, say, I don't know, your fully maxed out Castoria with an NP5 Space Ishtar, NP5 single target Arch Servant to immediately kill a boss? No. Probably not necessarily. Does it offer a fun way to play the game and a new team to mess around with that carries with it a lot of potential? Yes, it does. Van Gogh is good. Maybe not the most meta super optimal thing you could play in the game, but she's fun. She's fun and effective, and I think that's what's most important. But of course, I want to know what you all think, so let me know your thoughts on Van Gogh down in the comments section below. Let me know if there are any allies, craft essences, or command codes that you think I might have missed, and let me know what ascension you are going to use your Van Gogh in. I am quite partial to the 3rd ascension. I really like it when we have these Outer Gods characters, and they get all these crazy, wacky designs. I think it's super neat. I really liked it in like Summer BB, the whole BB Hotep design thing, and I think it remains effective with servants like Van Gogh, and to see in the future, Jacques de Molay as well. So really, really neat. If you want to talk more FGO, of course, my Discord server is always open. I want to give a big thanks to patrons on Patreon, subscribers and followers on Twitch, and of course, all of you here on YouTube for giving me the motivation to continue making these videos every single time. I really, really appreciate it. It is your support, your comments, your everything in whatever form it is that makes me want to keep doing this. So thank you. Anyways, gang, that's it for me, Kawaii50. I hope you all have a phenomenal day, and I will see you all in the next video.